And I guess I do have a unique perspective that in my first job, we were currently supporting space lab flights, which was the foundation that was developed to get us ready to support ISS. So from a ground perspective, I had the opportunity to actually develop the rooms, the infrastructure, the control center that was going to be used for the International Space Station. So in parallel, while I was doing that job, you had the space shuttle that was actually carrying up the components to build the International Space Station. So I vividly remember once the space station had been integrated and supposed to be operational, we had our control center up that night, and it was like they turned it on. It was a lot of excitement. We were actually able to command from our facility at Marshall Space Flight Center. We could definitely say that the doors to our next generation of that space station were open, and Marshall Space Flight Center, Payload Operations Control Center, we were in business.
Even though we celebrated the 20th year of our station, but we can see many, many more years of science and research that can be done on behalf of the men and women on board the International Space Station. And you think about that science, whether it's earth science or helioscience or space science, things of that nature. There are just a ton of resources and capabilities and things that we're still learning about this great planet, whether it's planet Earth or we learn about the universe. And again, that vehicle is performing nicely, and we want to keep that vehicle going as long as possible.
If we're going to live and work in space, we need environmental control and life support systems, or ECLSS systems. Marshall is and has always been at the forefront of that mission, the mission to live sustainably in low Earth orbit and beyond. Developing the system for recycling water, cleaning air, and managing the systems necessary to facilitate experiments conducted on ISS is a huge part of what Marshall does. Anyone who visits the Payload and Operation and Integration Center here at Marshall sees a hive of activity dedicated to overseeing the process of managing and conducting real science in orbit. And today, as we prepare for the 20th anniversary of the International Space Station, Marshall is already working on the next generation, on the next great leap in space exploration and scientific discovery.
What this team has done from an international participation. You think about all the work we've done with Russia and the Japanese Space Agency and many, many other space agencies that we work with internationally. And think about that common bond on how we figure out how to have such a complex vehicle and working from an international perspective with international partners. That alone is a very wonderful knowledge base that we have now that we can carry forward, whether we're talking about lunar capability or we're talking about going to Mars. When you think about some of those partnerships that we have out there, to me it kind of goes back to the cargo resupply. And to me that kind of set the path forward to not just look at cargo, but also what does that mean to provide astronauts to and from the International Space Station.
So the day when they was getting ready to schedule the first launch, I knew that the launch had been canceled, and I said, Caitlin, do you know why the launch was canceled? She said, well, Papa, you work at NASA. I'm surprised you don't know. She said, the launch was canceled because they had a weather problem, and her mama sent me a picture, and she was sitting on the couch with her astronaut suit on and her astronaut doll. So that's what I'm talking about. It can get people involved. It can excite young people to get involved in science and technology, and those are going to be our next generation of engineers that's going to take national out to the future. So that's what I would say.